Welcome back. I'm Jay Weidner. You're listening to the Smoke and Mirrors Radio Hour, heard every Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 in the Pacific, 8 to 9 on the East Coast, and anywhere else. You do the math and figure out where. We're on the Internet, and you can listen to our archives if you join the School of Sacred Mysteries for the low price of $5 a month. Anyway, we're talking to Shanti Shivani. We're learning about an ancient system of singing, which brings spiritual enlightenment and healing to the person doing it. And we can all use a little bit of that, or maybe a lot of that, actually. Anyway, Shanti is here, and Shanti was telling us about her the name of the style, which I believe she said was Drupad. Is that right, Shanti?
Yes, that's right. Actually, we're not really sure where the name comes from. There are two versions. Some people say it means fixed step. Pada is step. One of my teachers actually believes it comes from the star Dhruva, which would be very interesting. That maybe it is a teaching that came from another star. What we know is that working with sound, with the nod, was always part of the ancient tradition of India, which the Aryans brought to India. And in the Samaveda talks a lot about the sound. And as I mentioned earlier, this particular style developed out of the Sanskrit chanting, which came from the Samaveda, one of the Vedic scriptures, and also integrated the devotional singing, which is the singing of the mantras. And then this style developed out of the meeting of these two streams.
So are the Aryans the ones that brought this type of singing, or was it there before?
Yes, the Aryans brought the Vedas to India. Mm-hmm. Now, in South India, you have a totally different tradition. It's the Dravidian tradition. And
right.
People aren't sure either where the Dravidian tradition comes from, but it was very separate from the Aryan. And so the Carnatic singing is also a different style of singing. Carnatic means South Indian singing from the state of Karnataka.
Right.
So there are these two different styles. And the Dravidian singing is much more rhythmic. It's much more, I find it much more earth-connected. I love it just as well. But the style is very different. The embellishments are very different. The way you use your voice is very different. North Indian singing, I've found, is very transcendental. Specifically this style, because in the Drupad style, where we differ very much from the modern classical music, the Khyal style, is that we tend to sing very, very long, what we call alaps, which is exploring all the notes in the microtones of the raga, and then the composition, together with the rhythm, with the drum, is only about maybe 10 minutes, whereas our alap would be a whole hour, because the healing is in the microtones, because every musical note is connected to a certain emotion. And if you want to create a mood, and that's what the ragas do, the ragas are musical modes. They create an emotion by combining certain notes. So when you have a raga, when you have this musical mode, you have a basic grid, which would be your scale, and then you have your king's notes, the vadi, and you have your samvadi, which would be like the governor's notes. And you have very, very specific ways of approaching this note, pulling from the top or pulling from the bottom, or pulling from two notes below or two notes above, or omitting certain notes when you ascend and having them all when you descend. So there's all kinds of rules that help you create the mode, but then once you know them, then you are just stung. I mean, if you're a real true Indian musician, when you improvise, you are connected to spirit. You are divinely inspired, like any true artist.
And so someone just Joe and Joan Chardonnay, the regular people who are listening, they can learn this in their home through your DVD, or maybe or when you're going through their town and learn this. And what's the benefit to them to learn this?
Well, the benefit is, first of all, what I found, even if I just do a few-hour workshop, people go into a meditative place. On the one hand, we work a lot with movements to open up the breath and the body. And then on the other hand, what I'm having people sing different musical modes. And they can feel how different the modes are. And I mean, just by singing scales, you can influence your emotions. And it's all about allowing your emotions to surface and for you to just be with them, to embrace them, and whatever experience is connected with that emotion, that you just embrace that experience, and then you're able to release it. And because we're working with sounds, you're not working with your mind. It's not like the normal therapy where you talk through things, but you can't release them by talking. They just stay stuck in your brain. But when you're working with sound, you're working with all of your energy centers, and you're working mainly through your third eye. So, people, even I do weekly classes. We do an hour and a half. People come in, they're pretty frazzled. They walk out. They're so relaxed and aligned. It's all about realigning your